Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy, invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy, building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want. Episode 34.
Hi, and welcome to Mighty Married Moms. And today we are talking about a very fascinating conversation that we just had with Laury Hammel, who owns and founded the Longfellow Sports Clubs. He also founded the Sustainable. I have to look at my notes because there's so many things that he has done. And he's a recognized industry leader in innovative business practices. He founded the Sustainable Business Network of Greater Boston, the Business for Social Responsibility, and Bali, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies, and also has written a book called Growing Local Value. So he's quite an amazing guy, and while doing all those things, he raised 5 kids. So, kudos to you, Laury. That's pretty impressive stuff.
And he's expecting grandchild 4, he said?
Yes,
4.
Grandchild number 4. Pretty amazing. And started off as a tennis pro, and still is a tennis pro, and in the tennis pro, the Hall of Fame.
That's exciting.
It's really exciting. It's really amazing. So we had a really amazing conversation. I don't know if you guys want to start talking about some of the many takeaways that we got from that. And I'm just going to say to start off that we're all a 10. And we'll talk about what that means.
If you haven't listened to the other episode yet, we'll explain it.
Yeah, so what does a 10 mean? And he said frequently throughout the day, he does a check-in, and he says, where am I feeling emotionally right now, or physically, or any sort of a way, 10 being the best there is, and 1 being not so good. And he says, if it's anything less than a 10, then I just switch it, and I say, I'm a 10. He said, because I'm alive, I'm standing up, I'm taking fluids, and there's nobody with a gun to my head right now trying to shoot me. Why should I not be a 10?
Right.
He just really boiled it down to the most simple, basic things, like we should just all be glad to be alive. Now, I'll bet there's going to be some people out there listening or watching that are going to say, has he seen my bank account? Mm-hmm. Has he seen the kids I'm living with? Mm-hmm. Has he seen, sure, his life is blessed. My life, not so much. How would you address that?
Yeah,
There's a difference in how people approach life, and he wants to go, I'm going to be a 10 and be happy with what I've got. Not everybody has that sort of a
it's really interesting. Our daughter went to the Dominican Republic on a couple of mission trips, and she says that the Dominican people are some of the happiest people she's ever met, and they have nothing compared to what we have.
Right.
So it really, really depends on what you decide for yourself.
Right.
What is important? Is my family important? Is the fact that I have clothing and a roof over my head? And let's face it, a lot of the people in the Dominican, they have a tin roof over their heads, folks.
Yeah.
So it helps.
Curtains for walls.
Yeah, it really helps to put life in perspective and imagine that here in our country we're better off than, 95% of the world?
Yep.
I forget I don't remember what the exact figure is. It's huge.
Right.
And yes, it's not right either to deny when you're having difficult feelings.
Right.
You can't do that to yourself.
And that's not what we're talking about.
That's not what we're talking
not
about.
at all.
Just trying to reset the dial so that you're not always, we've talked about it with other people here, that mindset is so key into our long-term and our short-term health. You can just go tumbling right down a really, oh my goodness, the problems, and get into trouble in that day, and that tears away that cortisol, that anxiety loop tears away at your cellular structure and feeling well over time, and contributes to chronic health issues. So if you can kind of pull yourself up and out and get your mindset a little bit more positive, or a lot more positive, it's really doing a world of good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think one of the, the core, if you will, for me, takeaway from our conversation with Laury was, if you're going to rank what's most important for your health and well-being, he was saying a positive outlook, a positive approach, a positive attitude is the most important thing, then exercise, then food, and then community. You know, and what community is kind of involved in all of those things. And that I found that really fascinating, and that is an approach that he's had his whole life. So sometimes you think, oh, that person's so lucky, or they were able to do this, but you know, he created it. He cultivated it through all that positive attitude. It sounds so. I feel hokey saying it that way. He was much more eloquent than I'm being right now. But it's true. It's true. I'm going to be a 10. I'm going to be a 10 because I've got, you know, I'm fed. I'm healthy. I'm alive. I'm vibrant, and that's really the most important thing. So it was really. I think core values was a huge thing that he really touched on.
Yes. And I just want to expand a little bit further on that whole, it isn't hokey, because what happens is if you're focusing on, whatever you focus on grows. And that is, you know, that is a theme throughout anybody that teaches personal development, whether it's Brian Tracy or Robin Sharma or John Assaraf or Ted McGrath or Shalene Johnson or anybody who, you know, Tony Robbins. Yes, he talks about this a lot. What you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on things that are all wrong in your life, that's what you're going to keep seeing, because that's what you're telling your subconscious mind, this is what's important to me. Whereas if you are focusing on what you're grateful for, and we talked on that very briefly, gratitude, if you focus on what you're grateful for, if you focus on the things that are good that are in your life, all of a sudden you're telling your subconscious mind, this is what's important to me, and you'll start to see it everywhere else. So I just think, you know, I wanted to expand on that a little bit. Because
yeah, absolutely. And that's why I bring up that sort of, people think, oh, it sounds hokey, because I think we haven't valued as a culture the importance of happiness and how it has a profound effect on you on a cellular level. And the research is just starting to come out now, that this is one of the most vital, or the most vital part of your health. And Laury also mentioned a really amazing book, Younger Next Year, which I've read. Younger Next Year for Women. I've read them twice. I really like this. One of my favorite books, all-time books on health, and they really emphasize the importance of exercise, and they call exercise the fountain of youth. You know, because it's just important to move your body. If you're moving your body, our bodies are very much like our ancestors, and our ancestors had to hunt for their food. Right. So if they were moving, they were hunting, and that meant there was, you know, a supply, and they had to be sharp, and their bodies had to, you know, work and be in top form to be able to supply the food that
in order to survive.
In order to survive, right? So if you're moving, your body still thinks, oh, you're hunting, you've got to be sharp, you've got to be strong, I've got to, you know, be at my best. If you're sedentary, your body thinks there is no food supply and it's going to slow down to protect you, right? So, and they talk a lot about in the book, and Laury was talking about it as well, and he said he doesn't like the word aging, right? We don't use that word at Longfellow. And there's a reason for that. Either you're growing or you're decaying. So we always want to choose to grow.
Choose to
grow, whether it's, you know, spiritually, intellectually, physically, emotionally, all those things. We want to choose to always be growing, being in gratitude, having that positive forward outlook on your life. And if you are always growing, there's possibilities are endless, right? And opportunities happen all the time. So I really just, you know, I'm just impressed that he's been able to take those core values and put them into, you know, what would most people just think, oh, it's just a workout club. You know, you just go work out. And a lot of clubs are just that. Yeah. You know, they might have some nice amenities, but there's nothing really beyond that. And he's been able to translate those core values into that club, and it's palatable. You can feel it. When you walk in the door, the vibe is very high energy and positive, and everybody knows your name. You know, you really feel like part of a community, and you don't want to leave that club because you love being there, you love the people. And I've been on both ends. I'm a member. I've been a member for a long time, and now I'm a fitness instructor, and so I'm able to see what it's like for people who work there, and they love their jobs, and they love working there. And they're allowed to be very autonomous. He wants to hear their voice, what they believe in, what they want, how they think they can add value to the club. It's an amazing environment. It really, truly is. I can't say enough. I feel like I'm just so gushing, but I really love the place. Yeah. I do on so many levels.
Right. And so this is a great conversation about business, you know, and as mighty married moms who are working. And what kinds of things do you want to? What kind of environment do you want to create in your place of work? Because you take that home with you.
Sure.
And what a difference it makes in all of your relationships with your spouse, with your children, with your parents, with your coworkers, with with the people you meet in the grocery store, if you show up and you're feeling like a 9 or a 10 anyway, you're going to be nice to the person in the grocery store. And guess what? That's contagious.
Yeah,
it is.
I mean, how often have you come up to somebody at the grocery store or at, any other kind of store, and the person behind the counter is either completely non-communicative, and they just, go through your things and they tell you how much you owe at the end, and you're just like, okay, fine, I'm leaving. Whereas if you meet somebody who says to you, hi, how are you today? How are things going? Are you having a good day? Could you find everything? I mean, that completely changes your own physical and emotional state right then and there.
It does.
And we can take that to our places of work, and we can take that to our homes and to our kids and to our spouses.
What I was struck by, too, was when he was talking was his own personal values, and he talked a lot about how he grew up and in a really kind of a culture out in Salt Lake City where there were really high value on taking good care of yourself and so forth, and how it's synergistic between what he's done for his life's work and his own core values, and I'm sure his home values. And how many of us get up every day, we might have core values in our homes and ways that we love to talk with one another, or we're getting better at that, and then you go to a very antagonistic workplace or a competitive workplace, or as I mentioned in the episode with him, going to a club that feels like I'm being judged by what I look like or not look like, or how good I am at squats or how bad I am at squats or whatever. and that it's just the right thing to find ways to bring synergy of those core values of a kind, generous-hearted, open life to everywhere we go. And so I'd be interested if you could put in your comments, what sort of communities are you guys in that feed that? Is it your PTA group? You're like, oh my goodness, it's there's a real synergy there. Or maybe it is your health club wherever you live, or your faith community, or wherever it is. Like where do you find those places that really reflect back to you, this is a really strong place where my values are reflected, and I don't feel like I'm living in silos, like, oh, I can be one way in the house, but after I leave the house, I have to go out into the big bad world. Yeah. Like, are there places where we can find connection, because it's just so important. And guest after guest after guest after guest reiterates how connection with other human beings and community and a positive mental mindset is so key to a really a life that living the life you've always wanted, creating the life you've always wanted,
and really, from a business perspective, for those of you who are listening and who are watching us and who are entrepreneurs like we are, and I think more and more people are looking for ways to be an entrepreneur and find a way to create a business. And so, one thing I've always really respected about Longfellow and the design of it is that Laury created it on those core values, and you think, well, there's a gazillion health clubs around every single corner, right? So what can I do that's going to be any more special? I'm going to offer some classes. I'm going to, have some equipment there for people to work out. Maybe they can play tennis or whatever. But what is so special? And so I think it's very inspiring to see that when core values becomes the center of your focus, and how and everything stems out of that. And how amazing that is. I think Market Basket was another example, right? Where the one in our community, it was a grocery store. Maybe you heard about it on the news because it was big news, where the family feuded, right? And the guy who cared about the customers kept the prices low, didn't want to, pad his pockets into the billions, felt like he had a great lifestyle, but he wanted to insert his core values into a grocery store, And so the family, tried to boot him out, and there was this massive uproar. I mean, people...
The people quit.
The employees quit and went on strike. The customers wouldn't shop there anymore. I mean, wow.
Amazing.
Wow, all over core values. So, you cannot underestimate
the human
it.
Spirit wants community and connection like that.
And so if you think about, going back to Longfellow, they're the 45th largest health club in the United States, and they've been in business for over 43 years.
They're doing something right.
And as he also said, a lot of the employees have been there for 20, 30 years. I mean, really, they're doing something really right on, and that's, I believe, really comes from the core values and really making that an important piece. And I've been to employee meetings, and we talk about it, and we get together at the end in the huddle, and we cheer, and because he knows, Laury knows that alters your being, and you'll go up to a 10. If you're going, woohoo, and aren't we great? You're at a 10 in that moment. Even if you don't, the next moment, in that moment, you're definitely a 10.
Yeah, that goes back to our conversation with Dr. Kim DeRamo,
yes.
too.
Yes.
Remember that? Tell us what's that recipe?
So the recipe is
for doing it.
Oh yes. So she has her book called The Mind Body Toolkit, and she recommends that you do a
several times a day.
Several times a day. They do this with their daughter, who's I think like 5 or 4 or something like that. And the idea is you imagine that somebody's calling you on your cell phone with the most amazing news that you've ever heard, and you start to feel it, and you start to get excited, and then you just give out this big woohoo, just like that,
and it recircuits stuff.
Yeah, it does. It
changes
your chemistry.
It changes your chemistry. It changes you in the moment. Mm-hmm. And she said an interesting thing in terms of geeky science stuff is that primitive brain, the reptilian brain, doesn't know the difference between a real call
and a fake call. As long as you change the way you feel.
You fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
You just say, oh, I'm receiving the best news ever, and I think I've shared with you what my best news is. Your debt is completely wiped out, and we bought you a house in Hawaii. We want you to fly there right now. Woohoo! I get all excited about that notion, and so, but it doesn't have to be real. You can use positive imagery or positive whatever makes sense to you,
right,
and it will actually have an important effect on your body in that moment and over the long term, because you're taking yourself out of that rusting or what's that word, antioxidant, your free radicals because of stress. The free radicals are getting turned down to a lower level. So it's amazing how consistent we're getting these messages from so many of our guests all over the place. So
yeah, absolutely.
Taking it in.
Yeah.
So I guess just to reiterate a little bit, and is just to kind of pull a few things together. We're talking about he said there are actually 8 core values, and we didn't get into what they all are, but we talked about 4, I guess you might almost call them grounding principles. I don't know if they're actually...
I think that's a good phrase.
Yeah, I don't know if they're actually part of his core values, but the grounding principles he talks about are number 1 is attitude, number 2 is exercise, number 3 is nutrition, and number 4 is community. And so those are kind of the grounding principles.
And you put them in order.
Yeah, he did.
But your attitude really needs to be first in your life.
Yeah.
And that's that thing of checking in. Am I a 10? If I'm not a 10, why not? And let's just get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then making sure that you build in exercise into your life. And that comes from that book, too.
Well, he talked about
next year.
That book also, definitely emphasizing, not comes from, but definitely they talk about it. And it's about plain English as you possibly ever can get from a book from a doctor, saying it's just the way it is. You got to do it, and there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no shortcut. Right. You can't you can't exercise for me, or whatever the case may be. And you get all those endorphins and all that stuff. It's really great. And I think
the nutrition.
And then nutrition. So positive attitude, exercise, food, and community are definitely the base for
grounding principles.
The grounding principles.
Yeah.
I like that. The grounding principles, and they have a program there. You talked about the habits for health and happiness, and really talking about the importance of making these things habits. And I think that's the big thing, right? Is we brush our teeth every day, twice a day. We hope. At least tell my kids that, really, you can wake up and not, brush your teeth. But it's a habit. It's a habit that you don't think about. And I think, for me, as a health coach, one of the things I decided, 10 years ago when I started doing really focusing on this work was that, in order to change your life, you have to change your daily habits. I mean, right? And that's kind of the big thing. So I decided to start changing my daily habits with food. I decided to start eating better and exploring all the things about food and diet and what it does and what it's capable of. And then I moved into exercise because it's really easy to skip exercise. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right? It's easy to say, oh, I'm so busy today. I really just don't have time to go to the gym. I really just don't have time to go ride my bike, go for a walk, or do whatever, because you kind of go, oh, it's going to be work and I don't want to do it. So we put it low on our totem pole of important things in our life when it really needs to be a priority. And so now I tell people, I am busy during my yoga class time. I am busy during my workout time because I made that a high priority. Because if I don't take care of my health, what else do I have?
That's right.
Right. So it's really, the bean jar they talk about, right? You put the big rocks in first, and the rest will fill in. And I have found, since I've made exercise a priority, that the other things still get done.
They do.
They still get done. And if I don't get to the dishwasher, or if I don't vacuum the rug, whatever, that's okay. That's way better than skipping my exercise.
My friend and mentor John Assaraf has taught that the habit itself is more important than the intensity. So, in other words, even if you wake up,
daily,
the discipline of it. Even if you wake up and you feel like, I don't feel well today. I mean, if you really are sick, that's a separate thing. But if you're just not like in your
excited about suiting up and going for a run,
or you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I've whittled away too much time and I now only have 10 minutes. It's not worth it. Guess what? It is worth it. In fact, I did it this morning. I had a really late night last night for a variety of reasons, and so I slept in a little bit, and I still put on my exercise clothes, and I still went to the elliptical machine, and I pedaled for 10 minutes because I heard John's voice in my head. There you go, John. Okay, the habit itself is more important than the intensity. Just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Who said that?
John Asper.
Well, John.
Oh, just do it. Nike. Yeah.
Nike. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nike.
But it's very true. It's very true. And the more you exercise, actually, the easier it is to do it.
Sure.
Oddly enough, right? If you only do it a couple times a week, it's a chore. But if you're doing it daily, even just 10 minutes, like Debbie said, getting on that elliptical, doing something, then you start to look forward to it. You start to change. It starts to change your body. It starts to change who you are, and you approach it very differently. Yeah. And I always say to everybody, you'll never regret exercising when you're done.
Yeah.
So maybe you may not feel like doing it, but when you're done, you go, oh, that's great.
I'm so glad I did it.
It's true. It does. The endorphins are running and things feel better afterwards. It's so interesting, though. Why is it so difficult to get that inertia? I mean, to overcome that inertia.
Okay, so here you go. I've actually been interviewed on a number of other podcasts about productivity and habits. And so I'm going to share a little habits tip for you here.
Good.
It's called habit stacking. And the idea behind habit stacking is you take something that you do that's already a habit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For us, perhaps it's brushing our teeth. Yeah. And so once you've all right, this is something I do without even thinking about it. So what you want, so this is the other part of it, is your brain uses up energy in order to accomplish things. And the thing about habits is it's not using up so much energy.
Yes.
And so you want to create...
You incorporate it.
Whether it's a good habit or a bad habit.
Yeah. Right.
Okay? You're not making a decision about it, it's just become a habit. And it's the deciding that uses up the energy.
Yep.
Okay?
Makes sense.
So what you want to do is create habit stacking. For, let's say there's a new habit you want to do. All right, I'm going to give you an example of... what is his name? He created Tiny Habits. He's out at Stanford.
Don't know.
I can't remember. I'll look it up and we'll put it in the show notes. But his point is that let's say you create a tiny habit, flossing your teeth, just one tooth. Start with one tooth. Seriously, you brush your teeth and okay, I should be flossing my teeth. I don't really feel like it. But as soon as you're done brushing at night, that's what I do.
One
you just
tooth.
Floss one tooth and put it away.
Yeah.
And then in a couple of days say, okay, this is stupid. I can floss more than one tooth. And then you floss two teeth.
Yeah.
Or the same thing with exercise. All right, for the next 3 nights, I'm just going to put out my exercise clothes before I go to bed. That's it. All I'm going to do, small thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the next day you're like, okay, I can actually put my exercise clothes on and walk out to the front, the front part of my house, and then I'll come back in. Yeah. And you get out to the front of your house and you're like, okay, this is stupid. I can actually walk around the block.
Yeah.
And so you just create small steps. That's the tiny habits. And as far as the habit stacking is, BJ Fogg, that's his name. So BJ Fogg says, he gave an example. I heard him speak. It was a video I watched at one point. And he says that he wanted to start incorporating push-ups into his daily habitual routine. So he decided, what do I do all the time? I go to the bathroom. So what he decided to do is every time he goes to the bathroom, he would...
Drops 20.
Tiny habits.
Yeah, okay.
One.
Oh.
One push-up.
One push-up.
For the first few days.
That's great.
And then after that, every time he goes to the bathroom for the next few days, he would do 2 push-ups.
That's
and then
awesome.
3. And so, by the time... How often do you go to the bathroom? Depends on how much you drink, right? Anytime from 4 to 6 times a day, roughly. Yeah. If you're doing 4 push-ups 4 to 6 times a day, you've actually created quite a lot of push-ups in your day.
Absolutely.
And that's habit stacking. And so that's an easy way to just, and you
so
start with
like you're making an association between one habit and another one.
Yeah, it's like a trigger. That first habit is the trigger that causes you to do it.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
That makes totally good sense.
So you start with teeny tiny habits, and you use triggers that are already in your life in order to create the positive habits that you want to
you make
incorporate.
an association.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Linda asked me to make I'm in another kind of a group with Linda, and she said, you should write down something that you really want to happen in the given month on a daily basis, like whatever it is,
I want to do.
I want extra income this month. And you write down, I want extra income this month, every day.
But I want to do 10 push-ups every day.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to do that this month. Or,
Right. Yeah. And,
and
physically writing it is also a really helpful way of helping it manifest at some point in your life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but we're definitely out of time. But can you tell that we very much enjoyed talking to Laury Hammel?
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
Clubs. We really did. It was a great conversation, and thank you, Laury, and we are grateful and appreciative of all that you shared with us, and I hope that you viewers are taking away some of these great ideas that we definitely took away, and you can apply them to your life now. Please find us on iTunes under Mighty Married Moms and subscribe and tell us what you think about our show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Be a 10.
Yeah, be a 10.
All right.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.